Hi, good evening, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here with Adrian Gill, A.A. Gill, and Anthony Bourdain. Just briefly, for those of you who don't know, and I'm sure that most of you do, Adrian was born in Edinburgh as a restaurant and television critic, Sunday Times, and a reviewer for Vanity Fair. Anthony Bourdain, American chef, author, television personality, well known for his books Kitchen Confidential. Adrian is well known for insulting the English and the Welsh and just about everybody else around the place, calling the English an embarrassing and ugly race. Anthony perhaps is better known for stretching the boundaries of life's boundaries in all sorts of directions. In fact, my sister Holly says that our careers mirror each other, as we both started off as dishwashers and ended up as chefs. And I won't go any further except to say that we share a few other experiences, in that she left me a large amount of nasal cleanser in the 60s rather than attempt to take it back to America. Tonight I'm going to presume that the audience knows that there's a great difference between dining and eating, and these two guys have had some incredible experiences around the world, so rather than...
I'm sorry, what is the difference between dining and eating?
Well, I think that one's a formality and one is a necessity.
Which?
The first.
Which was the first?
Eating.
Eating is a formality?
Yes. No, eating is a necessity. Dining is a formality. Is that not the difference? What, Anthony?
You know, it's funny. First, I was summoned to meet Ferran Adrià on my first book tour in Spain. And he calls me in, and that's the first question. I realize that this is an important moment and that decisions are being made in his mind as to whether or not he's going to give me 10 minutes of his time or more time. And his question was, Anthony, are you a diner or an eater? And I thought about very hard, wanting to please the man. What answer was he looking for? What is it better to be? I said I'm an eater.
I'm an
and
eater.
That's clearly,
Instantly.
Clearly what he wanted to
I don't
hear.
want to dine.
I would rather be an eater than a diner.
Always.
Diner bad.
You're dining
eater
on
good.
your own.
Yeah.
Looks like it. So, but let's put it this way: if we're going to somewhere like Ferran Adrià's, in fact, we're not just going to eat the food. It is the thing is that it is a whole. It is an experience that encompasses a lot of other things besides just the food on the table, surely. Yeah. And this is what I think it's interesting to explore with you two guys initially, because there is a huge difference between grabbing a sausage roll and wandering down the street and going to Ferran Adrià's for dinner. You
see, I don't think there is. I think you're all wrong here. I think that's exactly what going to El Bulli is like.
You are really
It's
entirely about grabbing something to eat. That's what's so brilliant about it.
I think no one would disagree with you on this more heartily than Ferran Adrià. It's a very visceral, what everybody misses about, I hate the term molecular gastronomy. It is hideously misunderstood. What you should know about what Ferran Adrià does at El Bulli, or did, it soon will be past tense, that half the meal there is eaten with the hands. That there's nothing on the table, it's bare.
Sure.
It is a very primal experience involving 3 or 4 ingredients elaborately manipulated, but we're talking very primary flavors that evoke eating experiences like that sausage roll.
Yeah. The most depressing term in all of gastronomy is fine dining.
I couldn't agree more.
Foodie,
more
bad too.
Foodie shit.
We really need a new term. I don't know what. I can't think of an alternative. I'm really open to suggestion.
I like gurgitator.
Eating. What do you? Sorry, Adrian, I missed. What was that?
Try and keep up. I like gurgitator. It's what I do. I'm a professional gurgitator.
But I thought that's what you did after you'd eaten.
That's regurgitating. Hello.
Okay. So, if you obviously really wanted to go to Ferran to go and see what he was doing, so you're obviously interested in the techniques that he was employing, and I guess in his sense of aesthetic, not just simply to eat.
I'm interested.
I mean,
Will you wake me up when you've answered that?
Why would you? Have you?
Have I been to El Bulli?
Yes,
Yeah. No, it's not about techniques, and it's not about prestidigitation, and it's not about being clever, and it's not about being fancy or sleights of hand or any of that stuff.
Because if it was, it would suck.
Yeah.
Right.
It's about it's about the essence of why food is great.
Yeah.
And it is just about eating.
But, well, Ferrand also says that, I mean, he regards his desserts as being landscapes on a plate. He regards it as art.
Well, he's an idiot, then.
Well, then that's, you know,
mean,
he's
he's
the
a
man that you're
landscape
talking
on a
about.
plate.
Well, he regards it as he regards the new desserts that he's doing as Japanese.
This is a river in a glass.
Inspired by Japanese landscapes. Well, it may not be. It may not be. It may be something far worse. But here's
I'm glad you drank yours first.
just to give
what
you
was
some
the famous W.C. Fields remark? You know, someone offers him a glass of water. He says, "I never drink anything that fish fuck in."
Yeah.
That's right, exactly. That's absolutely right. Well, do you have any icons? I mean, are there icons in the kitchen?
That's another
guys?
word I can't bear. Icon. I mean, if it
Unless
isn't...
someone's referring to you, then it's okay.
Unless it applies to you, actually, you know.
No, if it isn't in a Greek church, it's not an icon.
Well,
What? Oh, so Russians don't count, but I mean, you have become an icon. I mean, A.A. Gill is an iconic critic.
you know who's an icon? I have no hesitation saying that Marco Pierre White is an icon. Okay, to me, he's an iconic figure. Looking back to when I first saw that book and saw Marco standing up against the wall, smoking a cigarette in a 3-star Michelin kitchen, that was a game-changing moment for me as a young cook. And so he will always and forever be an iconic figure.
Well, then are the Roux brothers also icons, as he learned from them? Is there a story? I mean, is there an interest in that transfer of knowledge?
Did you ever come across the Roux brothers?
Met one or two.
Pierre.
No.
Yeah.
What about the wives?
The Roux wives?
Yes.
No, I never had the pleasure.
Well, there you are. I shall say no more, Adrian, on that matter.
I doubt that.
So, but one of the things that did come across with Ferran is that interest in Japanese food. And I know that both of you regard the visit to Tsujiki as being one of life's great experiences. Going to one of
He hates Japan.
What's Tsujiki?
The fish markets in Japan.
Oh, that one. Yeah.
That one.
We differ on this.
Yes.
He
hates Japan, but he loves Tsujiki.
I like the fish market. I wasn't mad keen about Japan, no.
Why? What didn't you like about Japan?
Japanese.
But that's the same. You don't like England either, really. So, and you don't like Wales.
No.
So okay. So I think was it you that said that?
I'm going off this table.
That good Americans die and go to Paris.
I didn't say that. I think Ernest Hemingway said that. But yes, that's right.
Where do good Scotsmen die and go when they die?
They just stay in Scotland.
Do they?
I knew I was going to die here.
I am, for me, in a lot of ways, if you're looking for a purely self-indulgent, if I want to reward myself, I put down a nice score, sold a book, have some extra money, I want to do something that's all about me, that I don't want to share. A high-end sushi bar or yakitori joint in Japan is as good as it gets. For me, it's really the next. It's as close to dropping acid as it gets. It is a bizarre and sensual wonderland. I love all of the things the very things that make Japanese pornography so disturbing makes their food really great.
That's an incredibly profound thought.
They're very detail-oriented.
They're absolutely right, and they pixelate out all the best bits. But I remember going we went to a restaurant in Kyoto, and I went in, and the guy who was showing me around, and I said, what are we eating in here? And he went, mackerel. And I said, lovely, I like mackerel. That's great. And there was a menu this long, and I said, and what else? And he said, nothing. All mackerel. And it was 600 dishes, all mackerel. And he said, not only that, but they'd made nothing else for 300 years.
I think that's...
So when the mackerel comes,
yeah,
it's pretty good.
Yeah. I think that's cool.
I think that's cool. I think that's...
There's a turtle restaurant that actually does this exactly the same thing. I mean, 300-year-old, serves only turtles, 6 dishes, and has been there for 300 years.
I like that. I like, Jiro Ono, one of the great sushi chefs of the world in Tokyo. He's been making the same classic, same 15 or 20 preparations of Edo-style sushi for, 70 years of his life. And as he says, he's still learning. I mean, that kind of attention to detail, that kind of tight focus, that's a pretty damn good piece of sushi.
This is why I'm happy to go in for half an hour, 2 hours max, and eat that stuff. Can you imagine living with that?
I like their plumbing, too. The toilets are fucking awesome, man. You just never want to get up and off.
Yeah, with the lights coming out through,
My whole crew actually love Japan because we get a lot of bad plumbing in our voyages around the world. So after you've been to Uzbekistan to do a show in Tokyo,
but at the moment, Anthony, I mean, you seem to be delighting in spending time in the least civilized places of the world, and trying to find something decent to eat in those places. It seems.
I know.
Yeah.
I think differently civilized is the politically correct term. I don't think we say least civilized.
That's not what you were saying out the back.
It's funny. I mean, Adrian is. I think everybody who travels a lot has a special place that they connect with right away. There's some people who go to India and are immediately either enraged, annoyed by it, or fall deeply in love with it. Other people. For me, it was Southeast Asia is a part of the world that I fell in love with right away. For you, I think it's Africa.
I'm particularly drawn to Africa.
Yeah.
But also I love India as well. I mean, that thing of going somewhere and just going, I will never get to the end of this place.
Yeah.
There will never be a moment when I go, okay, that's it, I've done here. I mean, it's just endlessly fascinating.
I like going to a country and knowing, man, I love this. I'm fascinated by it. I'm learning as fast as I can learn, and I'm going to die ignorant. This place will never love me back the way I love it. I will never be an expert. I will never know anything about it. I find that thrilling.
Yeah.
Well, that's real. I know that you're both writing travel books at the moment, and I know that we want to get that across, but we're supposed to be fighting about food this evening, you see. So I'd like to get you just back on track. And I know that you particularly like being in France.
Not much, no.
We'll go with that. Well,
yeah, okay.
Well, you have written in the past that you particularly enjoyed being in France.
Don't believe what you read in the papers.
Well, there you are. So, I mean, are there? Do you think new things that are happening now that are things that you want to encourage? And what are the fashions that you particularly wish to discourage? I mean, by example, do we encourage the lack of regionalism in French cooking now? Do we encourage the biodynamics in food, or do we regard these current fashions as being self-indulgence, perhaps?
Fine dining, dead or not, dying.
Over.
Really?
I hope so. I hope so. Waiters who come up to you and say, "Can I explain our concept?" No, I'm going to tell you the concept. The concept is, I order the food, you bring for the food, I pay for the food, you give me my coat back.
You order the food? To disagree with you, I mean, very much the trend I'm seeing in Paris is, instead of paying 40 euros for just the soup at Ducasse, as one used to, if you could afford it, followed by a 4-hour meal or long progression of dishes, each matched with a different wine. Now you go to a place like the Chateaubriand or Frenchy or Le Comptoir, where it's more, you don't order. Like a sushi bar at Omakase, you go in, you sit down. This is what the chef's serving tonight. 5 courses, 50 euros, and it's damn good.
With matching wines, without a
but a young but good wine. I think that's a positive.
I don't mind
thing.
that, but how do you feel about dry soup?
Dry soup?
I'm getting that all the time. When you order the soup and you get this plate comes and it's just these dry things in the bottom going. and then a waiter comes with a little jug. And you say, couldn't you have done that out the back?
I'll tell you what I hate. I don't like square plates. I don't like oblong plates.
Loathe square plates.
Right.
Uneven plates.
Right. I don't want to start on the left and work my way to the right.
Plates with rims that look like Pope's hats.
Right. And I definitely feel very strongly, you know what I hate is when they're pairing, for instance, wines. It's like, by the time the sommelier comes over, first of all, the waiter comes over, presents the plate. If it takes them longer to describe the dish and tell you how to eat it, I mean, I've eaten it already. It's gone, and you're still yammering on.
The descriptions, can I interrupt you just for a minute? No, you can't. Fuck off.
And the chef would prefer you start on the left and work your way progressively to the right.
Yeah.
And this is cruelty-free, Jameson Farms, lamb fed on a diet of organic grass and, to tulip bulbs. It's like, I don't care. Is it lamb?
Yeah.
Is it good? That's enough for me.
The chef likes to serve this warm. You see, we let them get away with it. We encouraged all this. It's you and me.
Well,
yeah.
I think that's true because, in fact, I mean, a lot of that over description and the small jars of soup coming to the table and things like that have, in fact, come out of those changes that have come through Ferran Adrià. No?
With Jeremiah Tower,
so while you might say that Ferran, in fact, wants somebody to just eat,
wait a minute.
he actually wants the progression.
Yeah,
he wants you to have a progression
of flavor. Not what he's about. And but the thing about molecular food, what you call which is just all food, all cookery is molecular cookery.
Exactly.
Show me something that isn't.
His dishes have titles like tuna thing, or nori roll, or tuna. What is it called? Like tuna ham or something like 2 words.
Well,
no long
I must
description.
admit, it's one of the huge differences with Adrià is that he really doesn't care what you drink with your food. Whereas I guess in the old days, that there were very classic wines that you had with it. I mean, if you're having lobster, by example, you have white Burgundy. If you're going to have oysters, you might have a Sauvignon Blanc, by example. Whereas with Ferran's food, Ferran couldn't give a stuff what you have. I mean,
I think
have a glass of lemonade.
I think he wouldn't like that. He drinks cava straight through. Listen.
I guess I'm asking you two guys, whether you think whether there can be a beauty in that progression of dining, and with that difference of flavours, that's actually an organised progression. I mean, that then aligns, if you like, food to music, or do you think that's just a piece of pretension?
I think I like alcohol with my food. Okay,
yeah.
I think it is an essential part of the dining experience. I think a pleasant derangement of the senses makes for better dining experience.
You're beginning to sound like Tony Soprano now.
Right. and it increases the likelihood of getting laid after dinner.
That's indeed part of the story. Yeah.
But I think that nothing is more tortuous to jaded diners such as ourselves. When you've had a lot of really good food in your life and a lot of great meals, the notion that you're looking at 4 hours of, full-sized dishes, matched with wine. I mean, by the end of the meal at the French Laundry, you've had the equivalent of three bottles of wine yourself.
Yeah.
You've had 12 between 12 and 20 courses of food.
The sex point of view, it works for the girl, but not for the boy.
You're not fucking anybody after that meal.
That's my point.
You're laying in bed groaning and farting, and that's not on anybody's list of turn-ons, I think.
Great. Okay, thanks.
And I think so, to the extent that fine dining is over, or that the direction is away from that, I think it's very much a reaction to and against that kind of exhaustion. I mean, do I need, people are willing to pay for the ingredients.
There was a panic in the middle of what they call dégustation menus. Right. There is a panic in the middle where you don't know how far you've come and how
How far to
When you're going to get to the end. I mean, I really, you start crying.
Yeah.
I mean, I have begged them. I have begged them to stop.
Well,
And they go, no.
Adrian.
The chef, he cannot stop now. He is going. He is on a roll.
You know what?
Adrian, do you then get, if you can feel unintimidated by a degustation and you can shout at the waiter there, when you're in a Japanese restaurant having kaiseki, which is almost a semi-religious experience, relating back to Zen, and a very strong sort of social experience, do you get intimidated by that and shut up? Or will you tell the waiter in that sense?
I have no
to
idea
rack
what you're
off?
Talking about.
Well, you've had kaiseki meals.
What's a kaiseki meal?
No,
It's sort of the haute cuisine of Japan, as eaten
it's
in
really
ryokan.
what started.
Might have
started
had it.
degustation.
There was lots of people changing of shoes, sitting on the floor, lots of bowing, straight,
Right.
lots of stuff, little bits of stuff. Was that it?
That was it.
That was it.
That was it.
Let's put it this way. I can't. I was a chef. I know these guys. I'm going to guess that you wouldn't do it either. You're not. If you suddenly hit the wall in the middle of your 14-course meal at a great chef's, you're not going to offend the guy. You're very aware of the fact that they're trying to please. Maybe they're trying too hard to please. I like to think of myself as a good guest. I will try to soldier through. You
can think of yourself whatever you like, but you're not.
I will eat it. I will soldier. I'll at least take a bite of the dessert. I'll try to do right by the kitchen. They worked hard to do the right thing. They're trying to impress. I feel an obligation to do my best and to receive hospitality, generosity with good grace. The way Thomas Keller solves this problem is he has an assistant. The chefs don't want to eat like this. Keller's assistant calls, if he's going out for dinner, his assistant calls ahead and says, okay, Chef Keller is coming. I want you to understand, he does not want any extra courses. He's coming in for a hamburger.
I hate that. That's
all he's getting.
I don't want the amuse-bouche. I don't want the chef sent this out for you. This is just a tiny thimble full of some old shit in a glass. I don't want that.
Yeah, but there is a difference between, if I might say so, one of us three going out to eat and a customer who's not used to having that experience. The fact is, we're spoiled. I mean, if we go out to eat, we know what we want to eat, and we don't want somebody saying, "Oh,
See, I don't think I'm spoiled. I think I'm abused."
It's AA Guild. Like, I'm going to give him an extra 6 courses.
They do. They send
I know
out
they do.
relentless.
I
And
know
would you like
they do. I
another
know there's
15
nothing more
chocolates?
annoying.
Just give me the bill. Let me please go. I can't.
But there is
because
no bill, Mr. Gill.
Because it's it's chefs. It's what you do. It's cooking. You cook for yourselves.
Yeah.
You don't cook for us. I look at this stuff and I go, no chef has eaten this. Nobody has ever sat down, this food, nobody's ever sat down and said, that makes a nice meal. What? This plate full of dabs and squibs and little piles and smears and stuff, and a waiter putting a little bit of that on there. This isn't dinner. You do this because it makes you feel, I don't know, potent, human.
Look what I can do.
Yeah, look what I mean.
Well,
all this stuff comes out of a kitchen, and you know that the chefs, the cooks, have never sat at a table and ordered it themselves and sat with their wives and their mothers. Obviously, they don't have wives, with their mothers, and eaten it as a meal. This is entirely about the aggrandizement of the kitchen.
Well, when do you think that started to happen? Do you think that happened with Nouvelle cuisine? I mean,
who was the first offender?
Who should we get?
Who do you want to blame? If you look at Escoffier's menus, and you could with Cesar Ritz and things like that. I mean, you have 16-course menus there, for Christ's sake.
Not normally. They're incredibly simple. What Escoffier was famous for was simplifying food.
Well, I can visualise these menus in front of me now, and they don't seem very simple to me. I mean, admittedly, a lot of the things were served on the table at the same time.
Obviously, from Australia, they're complicated. But for the rest of the world, they were really simple.
Well, the thing, of course, I guess that in England was that it was sold.
Pandering to the home team won't get you anywhere.
It was very class-orientated in England, really, wasn't it? I mean, that's the truth of the matter. That, in fact, the rich ate well and the poor ate very badly. Yep.
I don't know. I never knew any pork.
Whereas in America, you had this
what are the most delicious
German
French
influence.
dishes? What are the French dishes that you would want in your last few weeks on Earth? all poor people food. Beef bourguignon, coq au vin, rillette, escargot bourguignon.
Well, I think we all agree that duck is the main thing on the menu. Aren't we all Gascon lovers? You are.
I like duck.
I like duck.
You like duck. I mean, I think the duck is the...
I mean, a Gascon lover isn't how I put it. I mean, Gascony is what I just said.
Reading your piece on Gascony, I mean, you did say that, you know, I think if you weren't born a Scotsman, that you'd prefer to be a Gascon.
Yeah, that's good.
Rather than anything else. And I think I'd have to agree with you on that. But I mean, we know that within Anglo cultures, we have this huge fight about the production of foie gras, and that you know, that's somehow evil and cruel to animals. How do you feel about the sort of arguments that go on there?
I think it's a bullshit issue. You know, first of all, surely somewhere in Romania there is indeed a factory where they are jamming pipes into helpless birds who are nailed to boards and pumping food into them. That produces something called bad foie gras. You know, you mistreat an animal that is stressed in fear, and it tends to be a bad tasting animal. On these grounds alone, you want to, you know, chefs generally want animals to live pretty happy, stress-free lives. They provably taste less delicious if they're mistreated. Every single chicken ever served by the, you know, Kentucky Fried Chicken lives a much worse life,
isn't it? I mean, they're quite prepared to torture chickens. You know, stop.
I'm just saying, animal activists have picked on this issue because it's an easy win. It's food consumed by rich people that most people haven't had. There are French involved, so it's an easy.
Exactly. No, I agree.
It's an easy win. If you've actually been to see how foie gras is prepared, you study the physiognomy of the animal,
and you see them lining up to be.
You know, they're not being asked to do anything that, you know, any self-respecting adult film star can't do 3 times a day.
But I think the point is about foie gras. Is that most Ghanaian dishwashers are treated far worse than any of the geese that make foie gras. I mean, I think before you start worrying about what the duck had for tea, you should worry about the
dishwasher.
No, but I think you should be more concerned about the welfare of people who work in kitchens.
Right. Well, I think you're most likely right. Although, you know, in our kitchens, I think that, you know, they're dying to work in them. I think it's very tough. I think it's very tough in England and in the States.
It is a spear point issue for people whose real agenda is that we don't hurt or kill any animals. That we, at the end of the road, they want to give chickens the vote.
Well, this is the point, I guess. I mean, asking you about hunting. You know, I mean, at what stage of food production do we say this has gone too far? We talked about the live monkey.
I was a vegetarian for 9 years, and because I went to a vegetarian boarding school, like the only one in England they found for me. And when I left, got thrown out, I decided I was going to eat meat again, but that if I was going to eat meat, I had to be prepared to do the whole process. I mean, I don't think that you can. For me, I couldn't jump into being a carnivore just when it looked like a brick. You know, it wasn't. You know, if someone else took the head and the feet off it, that was fine for me. I had to be prepared to do all of it, or otherwise I didn't have the right to eat any of it.
So, I mean, with somebody like Peter Singer. For me, the only answer to Peter Singer is
Peter Singer?
Peter Singer is a moralist who's written about these matters, and for me, the answer to somebody like Singer is, well, I am prepared, in the event of an emergency, to eat human flesh. In fact, I don't put
How did we get from foie gras to you chewing on little boys?
Well, because I'm not English. You know.
Plainly.
I think it would be useful. I think everyone who, I mean, let's face it, you are killing an animal. Meat comes from a dead animal, so I think it is useful and correct that we know where our food comes from. It is useful and correct that anyone who, in a perfect world, I think any chef who serves meat, it's probably a good idea to get up close to your victim once. I mean, you should know. You know, we all love pork. You know, stabbing a pig in the heart makes you less inclined to waste your pork after you've done it. It's funny you bring up the human flesh issue, though, because this is the last argument, the last wail from the, vegan PETA type activists. They say, well, you eat pig, but would you eat human flesh? Hey, 2 weeks out on the lifeboat? Hell yeah. If you're not doing your share of the rowing, Jumbo.
That's precisely my point. Then.
No, but I think there is another question about eating people. What is it about the food on your plate that you think isn't about eating other people? We are all of us eating other people's habitats. We're eating their lives. We're eating their labor. We're eating their children. We're eating their water, their fresh air. All of those things. We eat people all the time. You don't just have to cut a bit off someone.
So what we're saying then, which I think we agree, is that in fact the morality that is being publicised along these lines is in fact a false morality, because it's not actually taking into consideration the condition of our fellow human beings in the rest of the planet.
Well, I don't know if it's a false morality. I just don't agree with it.
Yeah.
I also don't really care if animals suffer. If I'm perfectly honest, I don't give a shit.
I'd rather not see it.
Yeah.
Once you've heard one pig scream, the second one's easier.
Life's a bit like that.
And he's right. What's that scene in Pulp Fiction, True Romance? He says, the first one's pretty easy. The second one's the bitch of the bunch. He's talking about killing people. You learn something about yourself when you kill a pig.
Yeah.
But maybe getting back to where happy things and to where good food comes from. The role of great markets within a society is perhaps the best indication of good food that's available. If one goes into a country and you have great markets, then you have good.
You go first.
Then you have good food. Do you want to go for it? Yeah.
Well, the Japanese fish market is pretty
great.
It's
awesome.
It's fantastic. I love the tuna looking like unexploded bombs.
Yeah.
And squeezing the meat for the water content.
Yeah.
And it's all those little Japanese guys. There's something very World War II about the whole thing.
You have a hard time believing that there is this much fish in the ocean from the beginning of time.
They've emptied an ocean.
And this is one day's catch.
Yeah, I know.
And you look at a tuna that are selling sometimes $300 US per pound, unclean. Yeah. That's kind of awesome.
There's a market in a place called Kaliningrad, which is a bit of Russia that's stuck in between Poland and on the Baltic coast, and they've got nothing. It was home to the Russian Baltic fleet. They produce more cosmonauts than anywhere else. It's all organised crime and nuclear degradation, and they've got a huge food market there that sells nothing but lard.
I think
how do you want it? I love that.
I like Boqueria in Spain for pure ham porn.
Yes.
That is.
And what about the little unborn eggs? In small sizes you can go to put in your sauces. They rip them untimely out of the chickens.
Yeah.
And they come like Russian dolls. I like that. I also like the fact that they keep the fish alive on the slab.
Oh, in Tsukiji. Around 7 o'clock, 6:30 at Tsukiji, everybody starts hacking the fish. They whack them behind the neck, but not all the way through. They bend the spine and they take a metal rod, they run it down the spine, which kind of hurts to look at, and it keeps the fish in a sort of suspended animation, for a while.
And they get the big skate on their back, so they got the eyes and the squashed faces like that, and they cut their tails off so they bleed, and they're just bleeding, and they're there, and they've got sexual organs that are not unlike ours. Mm-hmm. There's something very beautiful about it.
Oh, good times.
The Australian Aborigines have a fantastic dish, actually.
Who else has got Aborigine?
Where they get, well, you're Aborigine, I suppose. But the thing is that they get skate, ray, and they cook the flesh and then they pound it with the liver of the ray, which is just like foie gras, and then make balls out of that. But it's one of the most delicious things that you can have. And they have certain times of the year when they know the liver's going to be ripe because of the different flowers on the trees and things. It's a wonderful time up there. We've got to get you up north at some stage to have a look and experience the things that they do up there. How about with organic growing and looking after the land, a responsibility for land things?
I'm all for organic food. I think it's a positive movement. I'm glad that people care about where their food from. I'd rather not have nuclear material in my food, or I don't want to, it's nice to have that option. But it's expensive.
How about with manufactured foods, where we're actually getting these incredibly intense labelling laws now, which I actually think is actually done by the large food manufacturers in order to prevent smaller food manufacturers putting their product on the market.
I would disagree with you about organic. I think organic, as it stands now, certainly in Europe, is now entirely a marketing label. It has very little to do. It has never had anything to do with quality.
What
it does have to do with is people who don't farm telling farmers how to farm. And I minded that. It was a lot of urban people getting together saying, well, you can't use this on your cows, you can't do this to your sheep, you have to do this to your soil. And then we will buy what you make. And what it does make is a two-tier food system. So you get food for the poor, which is processed, high saturated fat, lots of sugar, lots of salt, and then you get food for the middle class, which is expensive and has pictures of fields on it and has lots of writing. Do you notice how much writing comes with organics?
But what's brilliant
it's exactly like the waiter saying, "Can I explain our concept?"
Is you get in American markets at Whole Foods, for instance, you'll go in and they'll have the non-organic grapes and the organic grapes. It's the same company. Okay, these people aren't stupid. They figure out, well, the grapes are only $3. Let's offer a $6 alternative. Hey, look, they're willing to pay $6. Clearly, we'll jack up the price on the $3 stuff. They scare you on one hand into their own waiting arms. Listen, I like the idea that people are at least thinking about where their food comes from. That's surely not a bad thing. But there's when you start telling people they should, when you're telling people they should feel bad about their food choices, I don't think that is a productive way.
Once you start over legalizing, once you start having legal requirements for labeling on food, that you in fact prevent the smaller guys, the smaller artisanal producers, from producing that food.
No, I don't.
And you actually force them into larger factories.
Food is incredibly important. If you've ever been to a society where you have a lot of adulteration of food, like India used to have up until about 10 years ago, it's incredibly dangerous to go. Everything has been. You have no idea whether stuff has been cut with poisons, whether it's got sand mixed into it, whether it's been where it's come from. And labeling of food is a really important thing in a civilized society.
I would like to know if my ground meat has been treated with ammonia, and I would also like to know percentage of rat droppings in my food, if that is a principal ingredient.
I agree. But if you want a full sort of chemical breakdown, are we being signaled?
We are being signaled.
Okay. Well, I think. Look, thank you both for those.
We're going to take some questions.
We're going to take some questions from the floor.
Can we have the lights up?
We're going to have the lights up and down. Yeah, we're about to. And we have 4 mics. We have four mics down here, and 2 up on either of the balconies. So, if you would like to ask some questions, then we'd like you to come up to the microphone.
Surely there's an angry vegan out there somewhere.
There must be. There must be some sort of foie gras.
Artisanal is another bollocks expression.
No, you know what I love? Farm to table, right? Well, as my friend Wiley Dufresne said, he said, what is this farm to table thing? I buy my food on a farm. My food comes from a farm and I serve it on a fucking table. What do I need a t-shirt for? I mean, who wouldn't, Another thing about food labeling, though, since I don't see people rushing for the mics, calorie count, the more information, the better. We got to do something. I believe you share the dubious honor of being the fattest country in the world. Is that correct? You beat America? You're number 1, somebody told me? Hard to believe.
I think that's very hard to believe, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think England's pretty fat.
Really?
Yeah.
Heart attack capital of the world is Tonga, I think, with Scotland number 2.
Glasgow. We're up.
Yeah. Well, that's
I think in a heart attack off, we'd probably take Tonga in extra time.
Yeah.
Well, I think you guys, you Americans, tend to eat a hell of a lot more phosphates than we do. Okay,
Yeah.
because of hot dogs. I mean, just the amount of hot dogs.
My feeling always was that we could have saved millions and billions of dollars on the CIA and covert actions around the world if we'd just been opening McDonald's and Burger Kings and Kentucky Fried Chickens in the countries of our enemies. You know.
Okay, we have a couple of questions. Yeah, just lady down here.
This one's directed at you, Anthony. I've read most of your books and I find them very interesting and compelling, especially at 3 o'clock in the morning when I can't sleep, so I just open one of your books just for a laugh. And it does work.
You mean the heartbreaking story of my struggles with addiction provide
all of that.
comedy for
it's
you?
amazingly
Yeah.
honest and so truthful, and you have a similar style to J.D. Salinger in the way that you write. It's like you're talking to me.
Whoa.
Very, very moving. And I thought, if you're not a chef, what profession would you be looking at, or what would you be if you weren't
If I
a
could
chef?
live my life over again and I had a choice, I would like to be the bass player for Parliament Funkadelic. I would have greatly preferred to be Bootsy Collins or Larry Graham and play funk bass than ever know how to cook or write or be on television. Seriously.
Very inspiring.
Thank you.
Okay, madam, up the back there.
My friends and I would like to know what the three of you gentlemen would choose for your last meal, and what would you drink with it?
Adrian?
I've always said I'd avoid last meal questions. It's just too painful. I can't.
Today, if you're pretty damn sure that you're dying at midnight.
If you're on death row and they say your last meal, you can have anything you like, I'd say the bloke who's going to flick the switch.
Right.
And what would you drink with him?
I just think a nice fizzy water.
Anthony.
I don't know. You're facing death. It's a good idea to eat light. I'm thinking one perfect little, sushi rice made, really good sushi rice, really good Hokkaido seaweed, and a nice hunk of San Diego uni sea urchin roe on top. That would be nice. Drink, I think I would like to enjoy this piece of sushi in Dublin at a pub with a perfectly poured pint of Guinness.
That's pretty good.
Because the farther you get from Dublin, the Guinness really goes right downhill.
Well, look, mine might be a lot more boring than yours, but I think a decent piece of duck and a bottle of bone would have to go a fair way to doing the right thing by me, I think.
It's funny, I asked this question to chefs a lot, and most answers are like bread and butter, a grilled asparagus with a few grains of salt, always simple. Nobody says, I'd like a stack of, food with a lot of ingredients in it. No.
Up the back there, yeah.
Hello, just an old-fashioned gourmet. Just asking a question. Where would you eat, in London or in Paris? Where's the place to go? I know it's difficult because there's hundreds of restaurants, but there's got to be something special.
London, I'd eat at St. John restaurant. I think it's quintessentially British and it's delicious, and I love the place. Adrian, told me about it, in fact. And in Paris, maybe Le Chateaubriand. It's a relatively new casual bistro that serves really good food.
Yeah, I find it very difficult to do best and worst restaurants.
These are not the best restaurants in the world. That's where I would go.
No, they're just very good.
Yeah.
I mean, the last really good, the best meal I've had in Paris recently was at a place called Arpège, which does a lot of vegetables and serves meat as a side dish.
Yeah. I think that in Paris, Astrance at the moment, who used to work at Arpège, was the sous chef at Arpège. London, I don't know, I guess I'd go to a friend's place, I'd go to Rubens, I'd go to Woodside. Well, that's generational. Yeah. Next, up the back over on our left.
Yep, thank you.
Go for it.
Thank you both, fantastic. You're both funny, but you're both very wise, and and you're both very honest.
I'm glad you noticed that.
What is it?
People often miss it.
Shut up, Adrian. What is it? Just for a minute, then. What is it in that you both write about food? But what is it that drives you? Because is it the writing? Is it the hunger? for expressing yourself, or is it the food, the curiosity of food, or are you just those naughty boys up the back of the bus, throwing pencils at the girls and just trying to cut the bullshit?
I think Mike, I think there's an element of both. I mean, there is. I was a provocateur in school, and and as a little kid, and I'm kind of, not much has changed. But I think it's true. I'm going to guess it's true of Adrian. It's certainly true of me. I have a great deal of rage and indignation about things, and I feel I shouldn't have to suffer that rage alone.
I'm going to get a bit wiser about this. Why I like writing about food and why I've written about food for really too long is that there is nothing in life that isn't encompassed in food. It is everything. It is the basis of all of our civilization, all of our life. It is the reason for everything worthwhile and for an enormous number of things that really aren't worthwhile. And you never get to the end of what food means, and food is a metaphor. So that's really why I write about it.
It is also, as a means, when you travel, as we both do, it is the purest form of expression or identity of everywhere you go. And if that is seemingly your agenda, I'm here to eat and drink what you eat and drink, you find yourself in a very privileged, with an access that maybe a hard news reporter would not have.
That's absolutely right. If you want to know very quickly what a culture's like, is eat its food. I mean, that is your in. You don't have to speak the language. You don't have to go and see the imam. Nobody has to take you around the temple. You don't have to see the museum. Just go and have breakfast. And you will know an enormous amount about the people and the country.
Especially if you're properly grateful, just a smile and a nod. If someone's trying, people like it when someone comes from someplace else, shows an interest in what they cook and eat and the things that give them pleasure. And a smile and a nod goes a long way. It's not the answer to world peace, but it's something.
A smile and a nod and convertible currency.
We'll do one more question from the patient gentleman down there.
G'day. My question's for Tony. I've never read any of your books, mate, but I'm a big fan of the show. I saw a show from must be a few years ago now where you said that chili crab from Singapore was the best thing you've ever eaten. Is that true?
No.
But it was true at the time. You said on the show, this is like the best thing I've ever eaten.
I use a lot of hyperbole on the show. Yeah, baby, it was the best it ever had.
The question is, has it been topped since? Obviously that's not true, but
I've eaten a lot of good food in my life. I mean, listen, the best thing you ever ate is the thing you need right now. When you need if you find yourself, drunk at 2 o'clock in the morning, it might well be that, a hamburger is the best thing that ever happened in recorded history. So I don't know. Best, I don't even know what that means anymore.
Yeah, I mean, hunger is the great epigram for what's the best thing. I mean, bread and cheese. Something you're really, really hungry, just bread and cheese will do it.
Yep.
And also, the whole nature of eating is the thing we haven't talked about here at all, which is that it all means nothing if it isn't with people. The whole point of food and the point for us is that we eat together, and we've always eaten together. We're the only animal that can make eye contact and eat at the same time. Now, you see, that's funny, but it also means an enormous amount. That is the basis of all culture and all civilization, is that we can eat together without being competitive, without thinking we're going to kill each other.
And I think we lose sight of that in this food-crazy world where we are all either food fetishists or food pornographers, I'm guilty of both of those things. Increasingly we find ourselves, you're eating while you're, tweeting and blogging and taking notes, and there's this whole, it adds a clinical aspect of food. I mean, it's not just the food. It's about what's on the radio, what's going on outside the window, who you're eating with, what the room smells like. Are there, chickens or stray dogs running around on the floor? Generally good signs, by the way, in a restaurant. That's all part of the experience.
Great. Well, thank you both very much. It's great having you both out here. Thank you
Thank
all
you.
for coming tonight.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
We'll be signing books. Thank you. We're signing books. We're signing books out in the foyer. 3 of us will be out there. Look forward to seeing you out there.